And one jumps into my head a conversation with Warren Buffett and Bill Gates about how they achieved their success. They wrote down one word on a piece of paper without talking, showed it, and the word was focus. There are endless shiny toys in our world that distract us from where we are trying to go. And as an entrepreneur, most importantly, you hear those words, stay the course. You have to, above all things, take the failures, take the defeats, take the distractions, and stay to the course. I actually went and did a school visit back when I was playing with a gentleman everybody knows of named Reggie Bush. And we were talking to the students, and I'm the preliminary hype man, and then Reggie comes in and everybody starts to actually listen. And his message was around not having a plan B. Reggie said, I went all in. I was completely focused and obsessed with getting here, and that is the only way you'll be able to do it. And in the car on the way back to the facility, I looked at him. I said, I don't know if that's the message I'd be sharing with the youth of today. But it is just like you said, you have your first son, your second son. It is the pros and cons and the healthy balance. I think it is unbelievable when a young person is able to prioritize what they want most. And after walking in professional buildings and companies, you see that phrase, if you can value what you want most over what you want now, you will find success. And so to be able to do that on a daily basis, to have discipline, and that's something that I talk to my daughters about a lot, and that's something I talk a lot about, is the discipline is doing things you don't necessarily want to do. That is an amazing quality. I want to manifest some ways for my daughters to lose or be in uncomfortable and hard situations so they develop that skill. But it is so singular and so, focused that they do miss that periphery. And so where I look at it is that healthier balance of, I believe you need to go and attack something. And if you have a heart and a passion, use that energy, because if anything an athlete understands is losing that singular focus and that singular passion. However, as you look at valuing what you want most over what you want now, you also need to reverse engineer the strategy. And in that reverse engineering of your strategy, I look at it as if we were playing a game of chess versus checkers. Checkers, you're just trying to move across the board. You have that singular focus and you just get to the other side. Whereas chess, you start to build a plan, build a strategy. And when you are starting to build that strategy, you have milestones, you have check-in points. So I can be singularly focused on where I want to go and what I want to do. But in chess, in Connect 4, in really any game, if you lose focus of what your opponent is doing or what is happening around you, you're ultimately going to step in a can of worms that you didn't want to. So I love the idea of having that singular focus. I believe I am somebody who inherently goes after something with all my heart and obsession, but I do have those life checks. I do have those moments where I pull up and I say, yeah, maybe I should check in on my finance. Maybe I should check in on my family or my faith. Looking at how I can build a strategy, it's all about those milestones of, for the next 3 weeks, as we're talking right now, my company, Money Vehicle, we're onboarding schools. It is coming up on August. It is go time. For the next month, I don't have to worry about anything else. I have a singular focus. We're going to onboard as many schools as possible to get them ready for the fall. After that month, now I have a check-in. Well, how are our systems? How is our team? How are things going? Did we hit the goals? But for the next month, none of that matters because we have that singular focus. So it is that healthy balance. The fact your son can do that and say, I'm ready to go and commit, I think is amazing. But it is also, how are you going to evolve and develop, and how, as you and I as fathers are changing what we see as success than our fathers and the generations before us. We're no longer that singular, I got a good job and I got a paycheck that's providing for my family. There's so much more to it now.
Yeah, and just having the conversations. I mean, just knowing that we're blessed enough to have a good family unit where we have conversations about peripheral. We identify when you get too singular on one thing. I am often quick to say, I love it. I'm excited for you. That's what I want you to do. But remember, there's sometimes other plans. Injuries happen. Life happens. Coaches happen. The style changes, whatever. Everything can change. And so we have to be thinking about things bigger. And we often have those conversations which I think can be valuable. A lot of families, especially in the NFL, the guys that you're teaching and training do not come from families that have had those conversations or that have been having them. In fact, all of their family's success is rested upon their success.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of pressure. And so I imagine a lot of what you teach is mindset and just helping them deal with those things. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You had something to say too. I love it.
And I think that is grabbing a point you said earlier in the idea of not being afraid to fail, and that you see your failures as just a first attempt. I love the acronym FAIL, first attempt in learning. That's fail to me. And so as I look at talking to an NFL player, they are terrified of failing and not capturing this dream that they have the opportunity to. But where, again, I think we're evolving, and where I have found success is welcoming failures. In your money, you should fail. In everything, you should fail. Why? Because we're going to learn. Failure is not being defeated. Failure is not an end of a game. Fail is just, I found a way that doesn't work. Thomas Edison, I found 9,000 ways that don't work until I found the one that does. And so as we look at, again, that singular focus, often why an athlete gets so distraught and derailed is because they have not dealt with failure. They've been singularly focused and progressed down one road. They've never had to pivot before. And pivot is that fancy way to say fail. People say pivot when they don't want to say I failed. So as I look at kind of those skills and those behaviors that I want myself, my kids, and people to really see of today, you're going to fail. Welcome failure. Embrace it, because failure is the greatest teacher. And I love to look at it and say, if failure leads to education, and education is power, therefore failure is powerful. And so as you see this, kind of new entrance into a world, I want to attack it with all I can, but I have to get comfortable with knowing I'm going to fail. And if I do, and when I do, I pivot, I redirect, and I go attack again. But it's that second wave, that second encouragement to stand up and go, I'm going to attack this thing, knowing I might lose, knowing I might get, failed again, but I'm going to attack it with the same energy. I look at a kickoff team in football, and, I love sports references. I also love getting away from sports altogether, but I'm reading the book by Steve Gleason, A Life Impossible, and this dude was a special teams maniac. And it was the ability. Everybody can run down on kickoff really fast one time. Can you run down, get your head knocked off, get back up and do it the second time? You got to accept failing, and you got to see, all right, now what do I learn from it? Pivot, adjust, and go attack with the same heart.
Yeah, we talked briefly in the beginning of the show. I showed the Cowboys helmet that's behind me, and I know you said you retired a Cowboy. It was a short stint, but as a joke, you said, I was there for a short amount of time, but it was your last team. Speaking of Cowboys, I went to a big conference and had the pleasure of both hearing Emmitt Smith speak and meeting him afterwards. And what was most interesting is the entire dialogue of his presentation started and ended with him having a initial fear of failure and kind of working through that, building a confidence that he was going to be the best at whatever he did. And retiring out of the NFL, the first thing he did was essentially get hooked up with Roger Staubach, who I believe had the real estate company, and started teaching him all about real estate. And he said, I was starting all over again. I was a rookie all over again. And then when Roger retired, Emmitt went out and started his own operation, and today runs his own operation. He was so excited about sharing it, and there were all these chapters. The point behind that is and I'll pause after this, but as one of the greatest lessons I've learned as I've gotten older is I love to build something while I'm in the best moment of the current practice. So when I'm building something and I've gotten to a point where I feel like there's any level of success, I like to look past it and say, what is it that I want next? So you were doing this. You were doing this while you were studying for your CFP, while you were gathering all the data and the information necessary to go to the next level. You were doing, a lot of times we do these things, we don't know we're doing them. Even the greatest running back, arguably of all time, statistically speaking, he is the greatest running back of all time. And
I'm sure
I
some
often,
Detroit fans are just
yeah,
cringing
Barry
right now.
Sanders. Yeah, it was great. I mean, but you know what? Wear and tear
Yeah,
is one of the things that you got to stay healthy, and that
got to.
alone is amazing, right? But he was focused on being a rookie all over again. He was focused on growing and learning, and he was building something and then building his own business while he was at the same time kind of learning from the other. And so I just think it's such a great thing that you're teaching, because you're having them not just have to think about, what if I fail? What if I succeed? And then I want to do something else too. What do I want to do later? What is the average NFL career? 3.5 years?
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about, you're 24 years old. You're going to have a career after that, right?
you
What are we going to
better.
do?
And so I look at that, and you're talking, and I love that, and I've always kind of prided myself in trying to identify beyond what I currently people see me as, because I grew up the jock, the athlete, the football guy, and I always wanted people to know there was another side to me. And so as one of my preparations, financial was absolutely a big one, but it was also the principles of life, the rules to success. I called them rookie to veteran. And as we looked at that, I got introduced to a mantra called be a pro. What I came to find out was be a pro stood for confidence, trust, and value. You needed to believe you deserved to be there. That team needed to trust that you deserved to be there. And whatever or whoever you were working with needed to feel the value. That is what a professional does. But as you mentioned, Emmett started, the greatest in the world, started with himself having to convince, I can do this. I can be great. It is such an amazing first step, and one that so many overlook. People look at you, they look at me, and they say, oh, they're a confident person, or they have high energy. That's just natural to them. BS, man. I wake up every day and have to convince myself I'm going to do this. I am who I want to be. And I encourage myself with mindset, because dripping into that subconscious is absolutely everything. But what I love about, again, going to talk, I've taught 400 NFL players in the last 2 months. The message is very clear and very concise. Decades, not days. If I can get you to start seeing this journey of football, the opportunity the NFL provides in decades, not days, we know we're going into the right direction. And so I look at that preparation, that planning. I love when you're saying, I use the platform that I am succeeding on today to launch me into the next platform. You and I are very kindred spirits in that way. And I look at kind of what rookie to veteran was able to implant into Money Vehicle, what Money Vehicle is launching me into now. I look at that trajectory, and I keep saying, as long as I can maintain my focus and effort on one subject, but then at the same time have those check-ins and see where I'm headed next, what has changed, where I need to pivot, and as long as those failures and defeats don't take me down, a saying I continue to tell myself every morning as an entrepreneur, I'm a tough man to kill. And if you are an entrepreneur, you know you're going to get 99 no's before you get one yes. That is a mindset that you must have. But it's preparing me for the day, and it's preparing me for my success.
If you like clips like this, I have a similar clip here. And if you want to watch the full video, click here.